Lining up. I can't say that I remember parking my car at the South Beach, or South Arundel Dog Beach. It's October, it's 2016, and I think it's probably fair to say that I didn't park it at all. I just abandoned it. I can't remember leaving the door open. I can't remember leaving my keys in the ignition, and I can't remember how it was that I ended up stumbling along the ground and up the limestone path along the seawall for the Fremantle Yacht Club. I remember scrambling over the limestone boulders, and I remember looking down at the ocean. And I remember sort of getting down into a position and then a blur. I don't recall too much more after that. And then I remember this sensation of water lapping around my shins. And I'm looking sideways, and just over here, all of my clothes are folded up in a neat little pile on my red boots just here. Now, I don't even remember getting nude. I don't remember sitting down on a rock enough that my shins and my feet were immersed in the water. And I don't really remember how it was that I felt that put me there. I recall in the moment looking at the clothes, looking at the water, and realising that what I wanted to do was just slip on in. I'd arrived at such a point in my life that I'd turned up at that particular place to hand myself over to the sea. Now, I'm a Barefaced Saltwater Boy. It seemed to fit for me. Something had happened that had me abandon that car and end up on that rock. Something had broken inside of me. That put me in a place where I sat naked on this damn limestone boulder with my feet dangling the oggin, waiting to tip over into the sea. It was fully formed in my mind. If I just slid on in, I could just swim on out, aim for the islands, and if I miss, it doesn't really matter. I'd keep swimming until the water claimed me and swallowed me up. And I'd be where I should be. Because something about me arriving at that moment had convinced me that whatever it was that flipped a switch when I was in my car had told me I didn't need to be there. I was failing as a dad. I was failing as somebody contributing to our society. I was not working hard enough. I wasn't doing well enough in my household. I wasn't being enough of the man that I should be. And whatever it was enough to make me feel like I didn't need to be there anymore. And I'm sitting on a bloody limestone rock in that bay. And then this noise barks out next to me. Well, I thought it was next to me. But as it turns out, it was just me. I just laughed really hard at myself, loud, sharp, in shock, because I could see my clothes folded up military style on this rock over here, and I'm sitting butt naked on something that's hard and pointy, and my feet are wet. And my mind's starting to form a picture in my head of what I'm going to look like when someone finds me out there in the water. And all I can think of, if anyone knows where Bardi people come from, is that I'm going to look like a big dugong tied up alongside of a bloody thingy. And someone, somewhere later, is going to have to get someone in to identify me. And I laugh again. And it's manic this time. I laugh loud, long. No one looks over the rock, no one hears me there. The wind's blowing it all away. And then I start to cry. I start to sob. And my tears are simply adding more salt water to the salt water I'm dangling in. And it all comes out. I look over at my pile of clothes. I look out at Garden Island where the naval base is that I served on in some time. I think about the dreadful things that I remember that happened in the Sound when that naval ship caught fire. And I think about who I am. And I'm trying to figure out what it was that squeezed me in such a way that put me in that place on that rock. And then I reach over, push myself back up, get my feet out of the water, and I start to pull apart the clothes pile on my right. And I take my socks out of my boots and I dry myself off with them, and I slip them on carefully, and I grab my jocks and slip into them, jeans, shirt, boots on, hat on my head, and I sit some more on that rock because the shame's starting to tighten up inside of me now. And the guilt will follow later. And I pull myself up and out, and I remember clearly the walk back because my head's up now and I'm looking out in front of me and I can hear the sounds. And if you walked around any yacht club, the first sound you hear is the wind whipping those stainless steel wire stays as they all clack, 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 clack all around you. And the sounds come back. I hear dogs, I hear people, I hear birds, I hear the ocean, I feel the wind, and I walk down the dirt, packed as it is, and I notice the people I pass. And I walk towards my car. And a bloke sees me approaching, he goes, "Oh, that's your car, mate. Just shut your door, you mustn't have figured you closed it." I went, "Thanks, mate," a little shamefacedly, and sort of jump in that car, and I start it up and I bugger off and I disappear. And that night I sink into, I don't know what you'd call it, a terrible sleep. As the bits inside of me tighten up as I think about what it was that I did, and perhaps maybe that I was this close to taking away a father from my sons. Now, someone who was very close to me happened to be camping down south with her friend. And the next morning, very, very early, my phone goes off. And that person's almost sobbing on the phone. And she's asking me, "What's happened? What have you done? What's going on? Are you okay?" Because about the time that I sat down on that rock on the water, this person started to feel very, very uneasy about something down south. This wound up tighter and tighter and tighter for her, so much so that actually she didn't sleep that night. And by the time they made a decision to turn around and come back early, she was sobbing into her pillow. And she got in a car and they drove until they hit somewhere that they could actually get mobile phone reception, and she was on the phone calling me. And I explained that I'm okay. I almost made a silly choice the other day, or yesterday, but I'm all right, I'm okay, and when you get here I'll tell you about it, and you can help me talk it through. And we did. And a few days later, I get a text telling me, I want you to take me to where that rock is. And I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do. But it seems like I didn't have any choice in the matter, so I gave myself over to it, and I did. And I remember walking past the bitumen onto the limestone, and by this stage now I knew where it was that I stepped over, because I pegged the yacht that was directly opposite the spot where I came up over the rocks and could see. And I knew to turn left and step over and down, and there's the rock. And I just looked down on it with new eyes. I couldn't believe that I'd sat there ready to hand myself over to sea. And rather shamefacedly and feeling bloody awful, I walked down to that rock, and I stand there looking down at the water where I had my feet. And then you hear this, look out! And this person, boom, fully clothed, jumped straight in, right in front of me like a mad woman. And in that moment, she broke that spell that this place suddenly had on me. In that moment, the space that was probably going to be something that I would feel constantly guilty and ashamed of went away like that, in a big splash. And I jumped in as well, and we splashed about in our clothes in the sea. What do you give to someone who dives headfirst into your fear and your hurt to show you how much they care in a moment like that? What can you possibly hand over to them? Well, I guess if you can, you do one thing, and you just keep living.